everyone, I'm Samantha T, and welcome to another episode of Fresh Fiction's Video Book Club. Tonight, I'm so excited for our guest author, longtime friend of Fresh Fiction. We've had her for book clubs before, seen her in person years and years ago, and was thrilled because I had so many of her books. Famous Sharon Sala, and I mean, talking about books, 145 plus, multiple genres, multiple names, because I first read her under some of her other names and then was like, what? It's the same person? Oh my gosh. So welcome, Sharon, in all of your different personas.
We're all glad to be here.
Well, for some of our readers and listeners who might be new to you, and I can't imagine how, tell us a little bit about yourself and how did you first get started reading or writing, actually?
Farmer's wife, set out in wheat fields, waiting for him to dump wheat, daydreamer all my life, and never thought about writing books, but I dreamed all the time in movies. I mean, my dreams were like movies. And I had a job I absolutely hated, not the farmer's business. I was checking groceries for after my kids got in high school. And every time chickens would go on sale, it was just an appalling chaos at the little local store. Half the people raised chickens, but when they went on sale at the supermarket, you'd think they'd never seen a chicken or were never going to have another chicken to eat as long as they lived, and they just swarmed. And I hated checking them out because that juicy stuff just got all over the little conveyor belt, and that was my life. And I came home from closing one night about 10:30, and my whole family was sitting in the living room, and I walked in smelling like old chicken and tired and worn out, and they go, "Hey mom, what's for dinner?" Supper they called it. And I just kind of stood there and looked at them a minute, and I just turned around and went in the kitchen and made bologna sandwiches and told them dinner was ready, and went and took a shower. And the next night after I came home from work, I thought there's got to be a better way. And I had a story in my head, and I got my old typewriter out of my closet and started typing. And I think my husband at the time thought I was typing my letter of resignation either to him or the job at the grocery store. And he stuck his head in the door and he says, "Honey, what you doing?" And I said, "I'm writing a book. Leave me alone." And he goes, "Okay." Disappeared. And that was the beginning. It was just time. It was time.
And that was back in the early 90s, right?
That was actually in the early 80s because
Early
I
80s.
didn't submit a book for publication until the late 80s and probably 89. My sister, there was a whole lot of stuff that happened. I wrote the books in the early 80s, two of them, stuck them under the bed because I was afraid I'd die and somebody would find them. They were so bad. And I kept thinking to myself, I can do this. I still want to do this. But I kind of let it slide. And 2 or 3 years later, my only sister died and my dad died within 2 months of each other. And it was a huge shock. And she left a 5-year-old daughter for my mother and I to raise, and a dad that was off and on. And I thought to myself, I have grocery lists that outlived her, and all of her dreams and everything that she planned on doing and things that we were going to do the next week was gone. And I thought, I don't want to be on my deathbed wondering what would have happened had I not followed this dream I want to have. And that's when I started writing seriously, and that was in the mid 80s. And I think I joined RWA about 1987 or 8. And it was 89 when I got my, my next, it was my third full-length novel finished. And then I was afraid to send it off. It sat in my kitchen on top of the piano for about 2 months until I thought, okay, coward, do something with it. And the first place I sent it bought it. But it was because I had written for so many years before, and it was just like I said, it was time. It
Mhm.
was time.
Do you think a lot of times that we need those, almost call them kick in the pants, those
Always.
big items to really get us past certain things to take that chance?
Yeah, for a lot of people it does. And then there's people that are driven from the get-go. And I'm by nature a shy person, and I've had to make myself not be. And if I'm around writers or readers, I'm fine. It's like I'm with my people, my tribe. I found my tribe. But it's been hard because I was out in the middle of nowhere with nobody else who was a buddy until I met Janice Reams Hudson. And she and I became, and she just lived about 2, 3 miles from me. And we met at a little local event in Prague, Oklahoma. And she became my buddy, my writing buddy. And she sold her first book 6 months before I did. But we both sold to the same publisher. And so I've always had her, along for companionship, but we didn't have other people to talk to until we joined the local chapter of RWA.
And I'm just curious, how large was that local chapter?
At the time, maybe less than a dozen.
Prison.
They had just begun that chapter maybe a year before, and Janice found out about it. Janice was the go-to. If you all, a lot of you may not know this, but Janice was once national RWA president. She was all about the business end of it, and somebody would say bylaws, and my eyes would roll back in my head. So I didn't deal with that. I left that up to the smart people.
Well, and that's where I'm kind of going with some of this is the differences between when you first started writing. I mean, you said you were pulling out your typewriter. I mean, there
Mm-hmm.
are people now who have probably
Mm-hmm.
never actually used a typewriter. Again, finding uh, also your tribe and having Janice there where you're looking for people who are physically nearby, the RWA chapter only having 12 people.
Mm-hmm.
The
Mm-hmm.
changes,
Oh, they're
how significant
they're
are the changes
fast.
been for now? And how
Mm-hmm.
is your writing process? Because I'm doubting that you're still using a typewriter and all
No,
the connections now where it's just there at our fingertips.
well, when I wrote the very first book, I started on yellow legal pads. I learned the first the hard way that those two books that I put under the bed, you can't erase. There was no such thing as whiteout. And if we needed a copy, we had that stinking carbon paper. It was a nightmare. And I kept saying, if I ever sell a book, I'm getting a computer. I'm sick of this retyping. The book I sold, that one, I retyped 7 times
Oh,
in
wow.
total. I could have written it without looking at a word. I had that thing practically memorized. I typed it so many times because I kept editing. And it changed the page numbers, and it changed this and it changed that. It was like, oh my God. And then I sold it and bought a computer. And I have been through every computer program there has ever been since God made computers since. And I've learned how to do stuff.
Well, how much of your process is the same? I mean, the
None
stories
of
still
none.
come to you as a dream, right?
Yes, the one thing that is the same is that I always know the story before I start. And I can't start the story until I know the title. That's just me. That's how my head turns on. And when I put my fingers on the keyboard, it's like a switch flips in my head because I write visually. I don't write like I'm trying to think what's happening because I already know what's happening, but I see the words and they turn into scenes like a film in my head. And that's just, and I know other people who are the same way. They see it in their head, and the characters are talking to me, and it's like I'm taking dictation and just typing what they're telling me to say. And I can't fake it, and I can't force something and make it work because they won't let me change their characterizations.
Mhm.
And now they're coming to get me with a straitjacket. I just said that. And I'll deny everything you just deny it. I'll deny it.
Do you find that's different when you're writing different genres? Uh,
Nope.
Still the
A
same.
story is a story is a story for me. I love writing different genres because it keeps what I do fresh in every genre.
Mhm.
I don't ever have the urge to repeat. And that's the thing that just absolutely just I can't if I can't figure out what happened and why I've written myself into this corner, I get up and I go get me a Diet Dr. Pepper and I eat something I'm not supposed to eat because I'm I'm type 2 diabetic. Usually it's a cookie. And I just sit there a minute and think about it. And then I go, well, that's stupid. And I go back and I reread the previous two chapters. And then when I get to the end where I was stuck, it's just like I see it. It's just all right there in front of me because I lost track of the story in my head when I got to that point. As long as I'm tracking the story in my head, it's just unfolding. It's just how my head works. But I learned a long time ago when I first start to write every day, I don't pick up right where I stopped. I go back a chapter and read. That's just my process. And it's a really smart way to do, to get back in the story. Mm-hmm.
You find that you also have to be in the right headspace and mood, again, because of the different types of books. Because, I mean, I've read so many of more of your harder thrillers, and then the contemporary romances. I mean, where I call those, just the feel good, heart melting
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
ones. And of course, now with the Snowy Mountain Christmas being a Christmas book, I mean,
Yeah, that
these
was
are
the
all,
request.
I would think, very different headspaces.
Yeah. Well, I say to myself well, that was a request. My publisher asked me to do a Christmas story. And I said, okay, but I'm going to put stuff in it. And she goes, it's okay. I said, I'll make it happy and I'll make it nice, but I am not going to write a little cookie cutter, everybody's happy, feel good story because that's not true to me. I said, I at least need some drama in it. And I need a little bit of mystery or a little bit of suspense because that's what I like to read and that's what I like to write. So that's what I write. But sometimes, yeah, sometimes I have to make peace with myself when I promise to do something for someone and it wasn't my idea. That's harder. But I tell myself, my God, I've been writing published 33 years. I'm a professional at what I do. I can do what I have to do regardless. And that's just what I say to myself. And then I do it because I need to get paid. Yeah.
And with all of that, is it easier or harder when you're moving from these novels to when you write like a children's novel, like Santa Has the Mumps, or
So,
when you're doing your nonfiction books?
yeah, the nonfiction books are all compilations of Facebook posts,
Mhm.
that every one of them. And that was at the request of readers years ago. So I've got four of those books that are out. The latest one is the brand new one that was called Between Life and Laundry. But those are compilations of Facebook posts. So I'm not rewriting anything. Those were written. The children's books I wrote with my daughter years and years ago. Well, not with her, but she was my editor because my daughter teaches pre-K. And so I would write these stories and then I'd say, now tell me what words that are in here that are too difficult for a child of a certain age to understand. And so you know, um, she was my guide through that age group, the 4 and 5 year olds. So I had her for the advice, and the rest of the stuff I learned over the years.
With the Christmas books not being ones that you are typically always writing, what
Mm-hmm.
was your favorite element of the Snowy Mountain Christmas?
Trey and
Right?
his in Trey's trauma
Mm-hmm.
and how Harley's loss healed each other. I love that. And I love that she had not, that she'd lost family like he hadn't lost family, but he basically didn't have family. And she had wonderful family, but she'd lost them. And so you're looking at two dynamics of people, life, and world. And that was really interesting for me as I was writing to see how they solved it, because I didn't fix it, I solved it. And when I told my editor that I was going to do that Cinderella take on a Cinderella story, and I said I wanted to call it Searching for Cinderella, and they wouldn't let me because it wasn't a Christmas movie, a Christmas book. So I just got really quiet because I don't like it when they change my titles. And I said, okay, and didn't say anything more. And they named that one. And that's probably one of three that's been changed. I just hate it when they change my titles because they fit my books. But that's just how it goes. And you just have to make peace with how that works. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, again, when you've been cultivating it and then they change something like that, just
It makes me sick at my stomach because I told them, I said, well, now I have to go back and edit this whole book again because I reference a title as it ties into a story. And so now you have changed the dynamic of what I think about this book. And I'm going to have to think about this a while. And they're going, but it's just a title. And I go, no, it's my story. I said, I'm the one who birthed this child. And now you're asking me to let you name it. And
mhm.
that's really hard. That's hard for a writer. And some writers just don't care. I mean, because they're involved in another aspect of it. They're happy to tell the story and they just, I don't care what you call it, but I've turned in my work and I love it. It's just me. That's my little quirk. It's just I don't like my titles changed. Don't like
And
it.
how much effort does it take you then to go back and make those changes so that you're putting those different links in so that you're then happy and it becomes your child again?
I have to make myself not have a Smith fit. I'm famous for them. My whole family is. That's my daddy's side of the family. And they're literally famous for the Smith fits. And I unfortunately inherited that instead of my mother's OCD for being clean. And I just, like I said, it really aggravates me. And I have to get a hold of myself and just say, well, you can have a Smith fit all day, Sharon K, but you're not going anywhere with it. So you just as well get over it and do what you have to do. And as I'm doing it, finally, as I'm going through it, I've made peace with it enough that I can do it without being mad at everybody for for messing with my cake that I was baking. It's just a hard thing for me. That's just how my brain works, and I don't like it.
Well, I want to switch over to maybe something a little bit easier on the brain then.
Okay,
Our fresh
good.
fiction facts.
Mhm.
Series of questions off the top of your head, kind of a rapid fire element.
Go
Since
for it.
is a holiday Christmas book, I want to throw in a couple different Christmas questions for you too, okay?
Sure.
Okay, for decorations, white lights or colored lights?
Colored. I'm a child of the 40s and 50s and 60s.
Christmas wrapping or Christmas bags?
Well, I like the wrapping better, but my fingers are arthritic enough now that I choose bags for the comfort factor.
Mhm.
And also for another reason, boxes are always having to be broken down and thrown away if you have to buy boxes to wrap. But I don't have that waste if it's just a bag. And people keep the bags and they use them for other stuff. And so it in a way it's just another aspect of giving a gift. So bags. Now,
Do you open gifts Christmas Eve or Christmas morning?
my children and I always did a Christmas Eve because we went to my grandmother's house Christmas Eve. 5 different families all gathered together. It was the most wonderful event of my life to go to my grand and grandpa's on Christmas Eve. And I've carried that over with my children, now the grown children. We open presents here on Christmas Eve, and then wherever we're going for Christmas dinner, we take our gifts to the other people there. But who to so now it'd be like my daughter and my grandson come for Christmas Eve because all the other family I have is scattered. And if I see them, I'll see them at the big family dinner the next day or whenever.
What was your favorite find in your Christmas stocking?
Well, I never had a stocking. I just realized today I wrote a post on Facebook. I also never wrote a letter to Santa. That just didn't happen in the mid 40s in poor town Oklahoma, rural Oklahoma. But my children have given me stocking stuff since, and because we trade now, we do that. And the best things I get are the little kitchen gadgets, like
Oh, yes.
the little cutie things that are kitchen gadgets that I love to bake and cook. And so when they give me something that's a kitchen gadget and it's something that I can pop a top off or open a tab on a Diet Dr. Pepper without busting the fingernail or something, I'm just beside myself. I love toys. And now they're kitchen toys.
I have some friends that are like that. My dad likes getting different gadgets, and we're kind of restocking his kitchen on some things. And another friend of mine who loves to cook. So I'm always
Mhm.
on the lookout for those types of nifty
That's that.
gadgets and things.
Mhm.
And I then always have to buy multiples because if I'm buying them that gadget, I obviously need it too, even though I don't cook. But I still need the
Yeah,
gadget.
yeah. Oh, you're one of those. Oh,
The
well.
microwave is my best friend.
Oh, dear.
But with that, what about fruitcake? Yes or no?
Yes, but I liked it, my grandma's fruitcake pretty good because she didn't kill it with liquor. She just didn't. We didn't do that, but she had a simple syrup that she basted the every she unfolded every week and based that fruit cake, and it was so good. But I have one recipe that I've probably had 50 years, and it's called Hawaiian fruit cake, and it doesn't have any of the citron, or it has candied pineapple, candied cherries, coconut, all kinds of yummy stuff, and like that. And so I do like my Hawaiian fruit cake, but I'm not a huge fan of fruit cake in general.
Gotcha. I like the Hawaiian. One of my fruitcake companies, they do a Hawaiian one with pineapple, macadamia nut,
Uh-huh.
coconut.
Uh-huh. All of that. Yes.
Super good.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, how about what tree ornament or decoration would you be brokenhearted if something happened to it?
Probably eagle, uh, my eagle ornament that represented Bobby. But I gave all of my ornaments to my daughter 2 years ago when I lost my house after taking care of my mom. And she she put it on her tree this year and then sent me a picture. So that, yeah. So
Oh, that's all.
I would have been sad to have had something happen to that one. Yeah.
What was the best gift that you ever gave to someone?
I want to say me, but that doesn't work. Um, I made my I used to paint pictures in oils. I painted for quite some years, and I painted a picture of the first home my grandparents had when they were newlyweds out on the prairie, and gave it to them
Oh,
one Christmas, and they were beside themselves. And maybe that was the biggie right there.
what is your favorite Christmas carol?
Mary, do you know Mary? I can't remember what the hell. Mary, did you know? I can't remember the name of that, but it's the one, Mary, did you know? That one. I like all traditional ones, but there's a few that are, to me, the story within it, and I'm a storyteller, so it's always in a song, it's always the words. That's why I love country music, because there's always a story.
Story. Yes.
Yeah, I'm serious. It's the story in anything. And it's that song. It's Mary, Did You Know? Uh-huh. And I
And
know that's not the title, but that's a phrase
know
that's
which one
a,
you're talking about. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. Mhm.
And I am not going to sing it to make sure you catch. I'm
Thank you.
not going to do that.
Don't ask me to either.
But along those lines, what Christmas song do you immediately hit skip? Can't get it off the radio fast enough.
I saw Mommy kissing Santa Claus. I just, I just thought that was the stupidest song when I first heard it. And I still, you know, it just doesn't ring a bell for me whatsoever. Sorry.
No apologies needed. It's fine.
Yeah. Mhm.
Well, what are you most looking forward to this Christmas?
Well, this year I have become a great grandmother, and I have two little great grandsons. One, they're 6 months apart in age, and I will get to see both of them this Christmas. Yeah, I have seen each of them a couple of times now, but one lives in Texas and one is a distance away too. So I don't get to see them very often, but it's going to be a big thrill to get to see them and hold them, because, I'm not, I won't live to see them grow up. And well, I won't. My God, I'm 81 years old and they're 6 months. It's just not going to happen. But it's a treasure to get to see their little faces now, and to get to hold them. I held Lincoln, the youngest one, Thanksgiving, when we had Thanksgiving, and he went to sleep in my arms, and I was just looking at his little face and just thinking, I wonder what you're going to be when you grow up. And I know you're going to be long-legged like your mama and daddy. And you just look at them and you think that's part of me. That's part of me. If I hadn't been here, neither would they. And that's just how generations are to me. I treasured all of my elders, and I'm hoping that I've done enough in this life that I leave behind good memories for them to pass on about their grandmother, because I'm real close to all four of my grandchildren. And I would like to know for them to say, oh, my grandma was so fun. And my grandma, we baked cookies together, and she taught me how to make kolaches, and, all those little things that mean a lot. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Oh no, I still have lots of treasured memories of my great grandmother.
Oh,
And
that's awesome.
yep, yep. True Southern lady. It's whereas the other one was overseas, and so we had to call her
Oh,
airplane over because
yeah.
you needed an airplane to go see her. But
Yeah.
yes, again, those are treasured memories that you
Mm-hmm.
in the spirit of the holidays, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But along those lines, and about leaving memories, what can our readers and listeners look for coming from you next? We're always interested in those next books.
Okay. Well, I just had, I, I don't know how many have noticed it, but I had a new self-pub that came out in November, that the ebook came out early. And then they dragged their to doodle, the people I had putting it up, about the print. But the print version of it will be out in January. And then I have the last book in the Jubilee series that will be out in January. And and then I have already written 2 of 3 books in a new trilogy that will be coming out periodically throughout 2025. The one that the one that came out in Kindle and will be out in print in January is called, it's a 2 stories in 1 book. Yeah, I had 2 novellas, and one was a little bit longer than the other, and I just put them together in 1 book. And the first story is called Mad in Mississippi, and the second one is called Rain Down on Me. And the Mad Mississippi is about a young woman who finds out on her 15th wedding anniversary that her husband is cheating on her. She finds a blue pop-off nail in the elastic of his tidy whities, and she finds lipstick on his collar, and she hires a private detective. She's so mad. She couldn't decide whether to kill him or make him sorry. So she's going to make him sorry. It's the funnest book I've written in a while, and it has a sweet, sweet story too. And Rain Down on Me is about a couple of 40-something, late 30s, early 40-something people who have, one's a retired military, and the other one is a young, who was widowed young, and their story of how they meet. And it's just so special. I just love it so much. So that Mad Mississippi and Rain Down on Me is out now in Kindle and will be out in print in January. The last book in the Jubilee series is called Bad Seed, and that will be out, I think, maybe January 14th, 7th or 14th, something like that. And that's the last book in that 4-book series. And then the new series I'm writing, it's called Crossroads, the series. And the first book is called Sunset, and it's already written. And the second book is called Midnight, and it's already written. And I am writing Daybreak as we now. So that's what I'm doing.
And where is the best place for our readers and listeners to find out what else is going on with you? Because I know you're very active on Facebook.
I am, and I have a site on Writer Space, and my website is, they're my website manager. I need to put it that way too, is at www.sharonsalaauthor.com. And everything is on that website. There's a book list, and there's a book list that lists everything in the trilogies and in the continuing sets, and the covers are all there, and the links to buy are all there. It's a really wonderful website that I have. Even it has every book, and so they can find me there. And if they go outside and holler real loud, I might be able to hear them now because I have new hearing aids. And I've never had hearing aids before. That's been a journey.
Oh, gosh. That way, I mean, you can just hear all the wind there in Oklahoma and anything.
It's never going away, the wind. It's just going to be here.
Well, and we certainly don't want our readers and listeners to miss out on anything. So if you haven't checked out Sharon's Christmas book, definitely go get that if you want to be in the festive Christmas mood for Snowy Mountain Christmas. But if you're in the mood for something a little bit with more of a thrill, or if you're looking for a new series, again, 145 books, multiple series, award-winning author. Sharon Sala has pretty much anything that you could possibly want to have the right mood to go pick up and read. Sharon?
And Santa Has the Mumps is the new children's book.
At 10:02. So it's only 20 minutes.
Sharon, thanks again for joining us. And it's always a joy to
make up the time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.